Hello everyone, today's poem is 早发白帝城 by Li Bai, the most famous poem among the poems describing the Three Gorges, 三峡. And this is a must-read by a Chinese kid, very popular and very famous poem. The Three Gorges is the world wonder, and it's located in the middle stream of the Yangtze River, and the upper stream, the middle stream, and the downstream is so different of the Yangtze rivers, and the most famous part is the Three Gorges, the middle stream. So this poem is all about the downstream on the Three Gorges in one day. There is a lot of the history record about the Three Gorges, not only because the wonder of the nature, the beautiful scenery, the rush, the dangerous river flow, the changes of the rivers or the scenic views by different seasons, but also this Three Gorges is the only way out or way in between the middle stream of the Yangtze River area, which actually the Sichuan province today, and to the area of the mid and downstream of the Yangtze River. And the Three Gorges just like a bottleneck between these two areas, and these two areas are very populated areas, so the traffic through the Three Gorges is always a lot. And Li Bai has actually been through the Three Gorges several times. When he was grown up in the Sichuan province, the first visit out of Sichuan was downstream to the Yangzhou. Remember the poem we just have several days ago, 送孟浩然之广陵. So that's his first tour through the Three Gorges when he was 30. There was also English record on the Three Gorges. One of them is by Archibald John Little in the late 19th century. The name of the book is Through the Yangtze Gorges. So he compared the Yangtze River as the Mississippi River and Amazon River, and he said not a word can describe the Three Gorges, the magnificent view, the dynamic change of everything, the rivers, the wheels, everything, through the time, through the seasons, and the danger and the people along the river. So there's a lot of things. And also the very famous modern traveler Paul Theroux, he also has one of the articles to describe the Three Gorges. So this is a must to visit place for the modern travelers as well as for the ancient intellectual Chinese intellectuals. Okay, let's see how Li Bai described this place, which cannot be described by words. 早发白帝，李白。朝辞白帝彩云间，千里江陵一日还。两岸猿声啼不住，轻舟已过万重山. So here you can notice very clearly the ending of the sentence 1, 2, 4 is with the same sounds. 云间. So if you know pinyin is 鸡安间 an, the ending is sound is an, 彩云间. The second sentence is 一日还, the pinyin is huan, huan. The ending is also an, 还. And the fourth is 山, 万重山. The pinyin is shan, 山. The ending is out as well as an. So the ending is one of the sounding rules or for the classic Chinese poem. So there's so many rules. I just point out one of them. That take years of learning if you want to learn the rhythm and also the tones of the classic Chinese poem. It's a very simple poem. All the great poems simple. The modern Chinese people has no difficulty at all to get to know the meaning of each sentences and each words. But it's not a simple poem actually. Let's see. 早发白帝, 早发 means he starts early at the beginning at the city of Baidi. Baidi City is the starting point of the Three Gorges at the upstream. So Li Bai is starting from this city and go downstream. 朝辞白帝彩云间, 千里江陵一日还. A very simple poem. So at the morning, early morning, he say farewell, 朝辞 say farewell to the Baidi City. And the clouds, the colorful clouds is around the city. So here it describes all this area actually is high, big mountains. And the Baidi City is very high at the mountain up the riverside of Yangtze River. So that's Baidi City. You can imagine a huge big river flowing much below and a city high above on the mountain, surrounded by the colorful clouds. 千里江陵一日还. Jiangling is the city of Jingzhou today. And so it's also a very simple sentence. From Baidi City to Jiangling City, through the Yangtze River, through the Three Gorges, it's 1,000 miles. The Chinese miles, so roughly is 500 kilometers apart. So it takes just one day on a boat from Baidi City to Jiangling City. Through the Three Gorges in one day is an old saying. So if you is an intellectual people or you are familiar with this area, you would know this saying. But most people never believe it because it's just like even the modern people, it's hard to believe how fast the light travels. So it's just quite similar. And once the most famous poet Du Fu goes through the Three Gorges downstream, and after his travel, he started to believe that make this trip in one day is not just a saying, it's a possibility. 两岸猿声啼不住，轻舟已过万重山. So the monkey is crying all the way on the both side of the river. So the monkeys in the Three Gorges area is an old saying. So everybody through this area, they know the monkeys along the riverside. And the monkeys always crying. And the crying for the Asian Chinese is like the crying for the dead, crying in the funerals. So it's not a good sound. It's not a pleasant sound, and sometimes it refers to the bad luck. But here, from the first two sentences, we starting with delighted situation. The clouds is colorful, so that's what you see. And then they make 1,000 miles in just one day. That's a little miracle, and also a huge contrast by the different dimension. 1,000 miles is the space, is the distance, it's the space, and in one day is the time. So he used the space and time for modern people. Could be the same thing, but in the very ancient Chinese people, they also like to compare the space and time, and which means something, has something similar in its deep root. And in the third sentence, is the mood, the feelings comes to be a little sad if we use the normal thinkings. But here actually, it's used as a contrast to compare, to make the happiness or the delighted mood of Li Bai much more. Because normally, when you hear the monkey cries, and then you will follow with something much, with much sadness. But here, the following is 轻舟已过万重山. So all the Chinese characters has its bias, the positive, negative, the bad, good, the bad meanings. So we can see the 彩, the colorful clouds, the colorful is a good bias, is a good words, is a positive word. 千里江陵一日还, so that's also positive. And the third is not positive, it's negative. And the fourth, 轻舟, 轻 is very positive, the boat, the light boat, and passed through the 10,000 mountains. 10,000 mountains, of course, is a brag, but you can imagine through the 1,000 miles journey, the riverside, both sides, is all the mountains. So it's the feelings is just like the 10,000 mountains. It's not in your mind. It's not a brag at all. So the writing techniques is unique in this poem. With just very short 4 sentences, you saw the color with your eyes, you hear the sound with your ears, and you feel the speed with the contrast of the space and time, and finally everything reflected on the feelings of Li Bai himself. The light boat, that's the focal point of this poem. Light boat, 轻舟已过万重山. This poem could be the most typical Li Bai's poems, which is always take granted as it's always with very, very broad view, with the space, the huge space, with the long history times, and also the way of narrative is always unique and different. So in this poem, it starts with very plain narrative to say what happens today, and then the following 2 sentences goes into the most characteristic details, and also it is totally different with the normal sense, because normal people describing the monkey crying is always sad things, but here you don't feel so sad, and with the four sentences, with the contrast with the four sentences, it makes even the monkeys crying is just like a celebration to Li Bai's journey. So that's the skills and the talent Li Bai got, and he's so different. So that's the most strong voice in the most prosperous time of the Tang dynasty. Anyhow, the poem actually was written in the last several years of Li Bai's life, and he was in a very, very miserable life that time. He was accused of a crime, and he was sent to the Guizhou province, the quite remote, most remote and poor place in the Tang dynasty. It's just like today to abandon someone to the North Pole. And in that age, almost 60s, which means it's a trip of no returns. So it's another big miserable for the Chinese is that in the place other than your hometown. So this trip means double miserables to Li Bai. On the midway to the Guizhou province, he was released by the emperor by the national amnesty. So that's why Li Bai was so delighted. He was so happy that the poem he wrote after the one-day trip looks like a poem by a youth people in his 20s or in his 30s. Li Bai could be the only poet among the classic Chinese poets who is writing the poems with such characteristics in his last several years. And also, one words can reflect this. 千里江陵一日还. 还 has the same meaning as 归. So that's a very, very important word for the Chinese intellectuals because it has contains two most valuable values for Chinese. 归, so in the first sense, going back to home. So that's the family value, home value. So that's one of the things I just point out. Even when you died, you better die in your hometown, in your home, rather than a place at nowhere. That's the family name values. So that's the meaning of 归. So no matter what happens, you better get back to your home. Another 归 is for your lifelong destinations. It's also the journey is also called as 归 or 还. So if you have the very good big thinkings, you want to contribute to the country, you want to do some of the great achievement, that's your lifelong destination. And the journey to make all these achievements happens or make it is also called as 归. And also for the hermits, they also use the 归 or 还, so it's 归隐, so it means go to be as a hermit. So this word is so important, and when you see this word 归 or 还, here Li Bai doesn't use 归 because he should follow the rules of the soundings. So we have to talk about that. So he used the same meaning. And also this reflects something happened several years later, just before Li Bai's death. At that time, he's just a normal people, and he still with a lot of ambitions to contribute to his country in his last several years. So once he had a chance to join the government, to join an army, he has no hesitation. He joined it, and months later he died there. Not because of battle or war or anything, just because he's too old. So that's Li Bai. Sometimes it's hard to imagine a man can with such a characteristic, with such an imagination, with such a dream. He's always want to be the best swordsman and who can contribute the great achievement to the Tang dynasty. So the word 归 or 还 is something fundamental inside a Chinese mind, or especially in the elite intellectuals. We had another poem, 风雪夜归人. So with such analysis, it depicts a very simple scenario. In the big snow wind day, someone is going back to his home. If you know it's the deepest value, the family values, and the lifelong journey is sort of a action of 归, go back. The destination is the destination. So you are always coming back to your destination, no matter how it is and where it is. And the bitterness, the happiness during this journey is quite similar. No matter it's a journey to the home, or no matter it's a journey to your lifelong destination, or no matter it's a track maybe. So the 风雪夜归人 it looks simple, but means so much for a Chinese, for the traditional Chinese values. And from this week is the 春运's time. 春运 means the transportation for the spring festivals. So that's a big event of 归, going home. And I'm going back to my home in a week. So I'm just one of the millions of Chinese doing the same thing, 归. And I wish everybody has a better journey, no matter it's going back home, or no matter it's a pursuit to his or her destination, lifelong destinations. Okay, that's for today, and bye-bye.